A trio of Earthling agents are tasked to research their galactic enemy's plan named the Cleopatra Plan by transporting their spirits into the bodies of figures close to Cleopatra in ancient Egypt. During their experiences as a slave, a city girl, and a cheetah, they observe Cleopatra's plan to assassinate Caesar by becoming close to him, seducing him. However, the Cleopatra plan becomes disrupted when Cleopatra herself becomes infatuated with the Roman leader. This is Osamu Tezuka's and Eiichi Yamamoto's 1970s anime film Cleopatra, initially released in the US as Cleopatra, Queen of Sex. The second entry into Tezuka's adult animation trilogy Animerama, preceded by 1001 Nights and followed by Belladonna of Sadness. Cleopatra is the trilogy entry which met with a mixed critical reception in Japan and in the US, risking bankruptcy for Mushi Productions. The mixed reception could partially be due to the film's mismarketed promotion, which implied animated erotica, whereas in actuality what is provided is a crude, animated screwball comedy with gags about sex and brief moments of artistic sensuality. While the film may be aesthetically crude, although sometimes artistically reflective of many of Yoji Kuri's animations and illustrations, utilising a minimalist, psychedelic and comic aesthetic, and considered distasteful for its humour at the time, maybe even potentially offensive due to its jokes regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment. Where Cleopatra excels is in its embrace of campy maximalism, as if like a carry-on film on cocaine, and its more visually impressive sequences, which shift the film's focus from sexual liberation into truly off-the-rails spectacles. Despite Cleopatra's flaws, the film has been embraced as a cult film with underground animation fans, as well as those who seek out the entirety of the Animerama trilogy. Cleopatra plays like a Saturday morning cartoon for adults, with its clear appreciation for comic visual slapstick humour, such as imagery of a giant, Kidgil, weakening his human competition, Ionius, in the Colosseum with a fly swatter, an indication that the human is no real threat to the giant, like a fly to a human, or when the Earthling agents are forcefully shoved into the spiritual time-teleporting technology before they can be completely briefed on their task. The visual playfulness that Cleopatra, at its best, is infectious fun, providing a sense of screwball humour that works more effectively than the film's more cruder aspects. The meshing of science fiction, fantasy and history also provides an injection of welcomed absurdity, such as when Ionius invents a gun to defeat his competition Kidgil in the Colosseum, killing the giant. Within the narrative, this is due to the knowledge of one of the future Earthling spirits providing the necessary understanding to craft futuristic technology, which also includes makeshift grenades, and the visually humorous impact this contributes to Cleopatra is a great addition to the film's sense of absurdity. Cleopatra also excels during its more experimental visuals, embracing the abstract during its more sexually explicit scenes, such as the first scene when Caesar and Cleopatra have sex, depicted via minimalist outlines. It's the negative space within the scene that provides the details that are not present here. In a literal sense, these are just lines moving and swaying rhythmically, but due to the negative space, the viewer is able to fill in the blanks, visualizing the sexual intimacy between Caesar and Cleopatra. Along with the subtle sound design within this scene, the scene itself feels psychedelic, yet recognizable enough as two people having sex. Another example of the film's experimental visuals includes its earliest scenes, melding live action with animation, even utilising miniatures to portray a sense of scale for an impossible futuristic cityscape. The meshing of the two isn't exactly flawless, yet the ambition is easy to admire, alluding to Tezuka's and Yamamoto's inventive scope to push beyond traditional two-dimensional animation when they can. Cleopatra is full of visually ambitious sequences that embraces Tezuka's and Yamamoto's interest in experimental animation, such as the arrival of Caesar in Rome, celebrated with a parade reminiscent of multiple classic European artists, from Joan Miró to Picasso, the assassination of Caesar presented in the form of a kabuki play, a sex scene between Cleopatra and Antonius, presented like the animation's film stock is unravelling. While Cleopatra may not completely work as a screwball comedy, its humour verging on sexist and chauvinistic at its worst, what Cleopatra demonstrates successfully is a fascination that Tezuka and Yamamoto held in exploring the visual boundaries they could push with this film, and in that regard, Cleopatra remains a sought-after underground anime cult classic. In conclusion, Osamu Tezuka's and Eiichi Yamamoto's Cleopatra, while a flawed, crude and often distasteful production, also demonstrates the directing duo's ability to embrace joyously abstract visuals and hyperactive camp humour. Admittedly unpolished, Cleopatra offers its own sense of sleazy charm and adventure at its wildest that is bound to appeal to those seeking misunderstood animation. Special thank you to my incredible tier Patreon supporter Gil, and my super tier Patreon supporters Constantine Bombelli and Victoria.